Welcome back, everyone, to the vIQtory podcast. I'm your host, Steve McGrath, alongside, as always, Chris Haddad. And today, do we have a guest for you? Buckle up for this resume, because it's a nasty one. Out of Pine Bluffs, Arkansas, we have a former two-sport athlete who played basketball as well as football, consensus All-American at tackle at Louisiana Tech back in 1992. 1993, first-round pick to the New Orleans Saints, where he began his 13-year career, which included 11 Pro Bowls, 7 All-Pro nominations, a member of both the 90s and 2000s All-Decade team, member of countless Hall of Fames, but most notably the Pro Football Hall of Fame, number 77, Willie Roaf. Willie, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Thank you for having me.
You know, your resume speaks for itself. You're obviously one of, if not the best offensive tackle ever. So any insights that you provide are just going to pretty much blow the minds of everyone that's listening. And, you know, there's so many places that are things that we want to ask, but the best place to start, I would imagine, would just be going back to where you first started to have your career take off back in high school. You know, it's my understanding that your first scholarship offer was from Louisiana Tech. But if you could just, you know, walk us through, what was it like for you, a two-sport athlete, going through that recruiting process? How did you ultimately decide that Louisiana Tech was where you wanted to be?
Well, it's funny. After my junior year, I went to basketball camp at UCA where Pippen played. Scottie Pippen was coming out. So I pretty much had an offer from UCA before going. I got Mr. Rebound at camp. So I had a smaller college basketball offer going into my senior year. So going into my senior year, you know, I just wanted to have a good year. Like I said, our basketball camp had kind of ended right when we started training camp, so I was in real good shape. I was probably about 225, 230 at that time, but very quick. Had a good year in football. We went to the semifinals of state in Pine Bluff that year. Went straight to basketball, played basketball. It was a coach from La Tech that came recruiting 2 guys on my team. So both of these guys were all state. I was all conference in high school. Elshon Richmond and Trey Reed. So they both ended up taking recruiting trips to Louisiana Tech the week prior to me, committed to Louisiana Tech. I go the next week. I commit to Louisiana Tech. And then they both backed out and went to Arkansas State. So I decided with Larry Lakeswell, who worked for the Dallas Cowboys for a long time, was the coach at the time. So that's how I ended up they were actually recruiting 2 guys on my team, saw me on film, and that's how I ended up getting a scholarship offer to Louisiana Tech and going down there to Ruston.
Very cool. So, you know, fast forward a couple of years, I believe you said that it was after your Alabama game, your redshirt junior year, where you just had a standout game. You absolutely neutralized that top prospect across from you. You know, it was at that point that scouts now are at all of your practices. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember this correctly, you had said that your coach kind of essentially told you that they're looking at you to be a first-round pick. And I believe your reaction was more of a, I'm not going to let this slip away. I'm going to make sure I capitalize. So, you know, I just wanted to ask you, you know, how did you actually go about that? What did you do to change your approach to the game that allowed you to really seize that opportunity?
Well, it was my last year. I was a redshirt senior. I thought about coming out my redshirt junior year. I had an invitation to the Hula Bowl going into my senior year of in La Tech. At that time, I had like a 6.0 rating back then, so I was projected anywhere from first to third round pick. We went to play Alabama. I think the 4th or 5th game of the season, and going into that game, they had Curry and Copeland and had the top defense in the country. And my line coach told me, Petey Piro said, "Look, you got a chance to be a high pick and make a lot of money, but you need to go out there and play good against these guys." And they had went to Arkansas the week before and really put it on them real good. So my whole thought process was, you know, I need to finish my blocks. I need to play well. We went and played them at Legion Field, and I had a real good game against Curry. And, you know, after that game, like you're saying, after that game, I wanted to finish the season off well, but the scouts, a bunch of scouts were practicing, not just for me. We had 4, 5, 6 prospects on our team at that time, and 4 guys ended up getting drafted out of that class for me from Louisiana Tech. And so, it was special time for us. We finished 5 or 6 that year, but like I said, we had a real good program. When I first got to Tech, I didn't realize this. We ran a pro set offense. Steve Vincent, who's the coordinator for LSU, was our coordinator. Joe Ferguson was the quarterback's coach. Pat Tilley was the receivers coach. My line coach, PDP Rowe, played 8 years in the pros. And Mike Barber used to come help us with the tight end. So we had an excellent coaching staff. But as you know, at smaller schools, when you start winning, they break up the staff.
Everyone starts moving, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it starts to move. So
yep.
1990 was my redshirt sophomore year. We went 8-3 and had a chance to beat Auburn. We missed a couple field goals. Chris Bonia was the field goal kicker in this bowl. And we had a real good – that was probably maybe one of the best teams ever in Tech history. Bobby Slaughter, Eddie Brown was receiver. Antonio Brown's daddy was an excellent football player. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had to go on the road and play against some tough teams, but we always played hard and had a lot to prove.
That's cool. When you look back at that, I mean, when you're in the moment, you might not notice that you have all this great talent around you, but looking back, you're like, oh my God, we had, this guy, this guy's doing, that's pretty cool. And you were able to grow from that. And to segue into my next question here, I mean, you're ultimately taken in the first round and going to, first round pick, how much stress is that on you? I guess that's part A of my question. And part B is there anything you did pregame wise that made you feel comfortable or got you more hyped up, coming in as a first round pick? And, we see everything with Baker Mayfield right now and how much hype there is around him. Did you feel that pressure coming in initially? And if there was, what'd you do to kind of calm the nerves down? Or football is just football to you? You just played it.
Yeah, football. I played football all my life.
Yep.
So my deal was getting camp on time. My main deal, a lot of linemen had not got on camp on time. The big tackle from Atlanta, Bob Woodfield, Charles McRae, those guys that got in camp on time. I wanted to make sure I got on camp on time so I could play. So what happened was they had traded Pat Swilling to Detroit, and they traded up and drafted me. Not only so, I thought I was the second. Bradshaw was the number 1 pick in 70. Then Roger Carter and me. I was the 3rd first round pick in Tech history. So, and I went top 10. So it was pressure. It was pressure for me to play because an all-pro defensive end had gotten traded to Detroit. And people really didn't know about me because I was a young kid from Louisiana Tech. So, like I said, my whole thing was making sure I was learning. I knew I was athletic enough and fast and big, and my athletic ability was going to make up for stuff. But the hard part was going through those long training camps my first year, understanding the schemes and the speed of the game wasn't really a problem for me. It was just adjusting to the blitzes and stuff like that. So, I did well, and, I had a real good rookie year. And, it, like I said, it was a learning curve, and I played right my rookie year, and they were getting me ready for left. Then I moved to left myself.
Yeah, and that's what I want to transition next. Is you start off 16 games at right tackle, and then they ask you to move to left tackle. What was that transition like?
It was good because I got to play right. I got to get my feet wet. I got to go against some real good guys. It was more back, especially then, was more. I got to go against more power guys on the right side, not as athletic as the speed rush guys. So that was an adjustment going over the left because you were playing against the best pass rush every week at left.
Yeah,
and we picked up Jim Everett from the Rams when he had left the Rams, and we had some real good years throwing the ball. I think we went 79, but he threw for 4,000 yards a couple years in a row. So it was a good transition. And like I said, I made All-Pro 94 and 95 at left tackle.
Yeah, and then from there, you do well. You 16 games right tackle, you All-Pro. But the people around you, I guess the coaches too, are coming in and out, right? You had Jim Moore, you had Mike Ditka, Jim Haslett. What was it like playing for different schemes throughout those 3 years? Was it difficult for you? Because I know initially you said that getting accounted for the blitzes and, checking the stunts and everything, that goes into the mental part of the game for football. Did that change as the new scheme started to come in too? And was that difficult for you to adjust?
It was difficult. When Moore left, it was real tough on everybody.
Yeah.
Moore had been there a long time, been a great coach. And when he left, that was a real tough period. I hurt my knee that next week. We got Ditka. Ditka really was a real good football coach, but things had changed, and the game was changing.
Yep.
So that was, we 97 was a real tough year, probably my worst year as a pro. His first year there, after Moore left, I wasn't in the best shape. Chuck Smith had a good game against me. So after 97, I had a chance that really helped me mature as a player. And I went to Duke and trained and got in great shape. And I never took things for granted after that 97 year. But 98, we almost made the playoff. 99, we had a tough year. The 2000 year was special. We got Hazlitt. Mike McCarthy was offensive coordinator with Green Bay now. That was the first time I was in the West Coast offense. And the West Coast offense, the way everybody could interchange in new different positions. And we went on that run and went 7-1 on the road and won the first playoff in Saints history. Ricky Williams goes down after 1,000 yards. We had running back by committee. Jeff Blake goes down. Aaron Brooks comes in. That's his first year playing. So the 2000 season, especially everything we went through to win that playoff game, was a very special year for me. But the best year with the Saints.
Yeah, and I want to just back it up a little bit here before I pass it back to Steve. Mike Ditka is notably famous for, trading all those draft picks away to get Ricky Williams. What were your thoughts? Were you in the mindset of, this is great because I'm getting a running back that I get the block for, that's as great as Ricky Williams? Or were you kind of on the other side of it? Like, what are you doing with these draft picks? Get more guys that can help beef up this offense. What was your mindset going into that?
Yeah, we needed a lot of help. And now looking back on it, that I don't think that was a wide decision. I think you could have got Ricky Williams if you hadn't traded all those draft picks. Because you had Edwin James available who they both were in that draft. And what was more, now looking back on it in 98, we could have Marshall Faulks from New Orleans. So in 98, we could have traded down and took Randy Moss in that draft. And we could have traded a second and a fifth and got Marshall Faulk instead of him going to the Rams.
Oh, geez.
You know what happened when they got to the Rams. And Marshall's from New Orleans. But, that's in 98, and I'm saying before the 98 season. If you have Randy Moss and Marshall Faulk, I think you can figure out putting talent around to be pretty successful.
You can throw a couple deep balls and score some points, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can add pieces if you have that as your foundation.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that in there, but before the 98 season.
So, as special as the 2000 season was, unfortunately, the following season, 01, just doesn't go nearly the same way for you personally. You have the injury. It's a short season for you, and shortly thereafter, you're now in Kansas City. So I just wanted to ask you just a little bit of what was that mental roller coaster like? Between the injury, now you get traded. It's a whole new team, new city, new scheme, players. I mean, everything has changed on top of rehabbing from an injury. So what was that like for you, making that adjustment?
It was a lot going on in 01 in my personal life also. I was building a house. I just got married. So that was a real tough year. But at the end of the day, when I hurt my knee and I think I hurt my knee early in my career. I tore my MCL in 96, and my right knee used to pop and lock all the time. I think it finally gave out at some point in the 01 season, and I think it was prior to that game. Prior to me going to see Dr. Andrews, I think I was playing with a bad knee a little bit for a few weeks because it used to buckle all the time, and I didn't know I had never torn ACL. I had a scope in 98, and I missed one game and came back. So it was tough. It was tough, going through the injury. You think you're letting the teammates down, not getting the proper diagnosis, so. But once I did have the knee surgery, I was ahead of schedule by the time I got to Kansas City. I needed a change then. The good thing was I had played in the West Coast. When you play a long term in the league, you play in different systems.
Yep.
So I played in every system that there was. So when I got to Kansas City, we run the West Coast offense. So with Al Saunders, who's with great coach, who's he was with Oakland, but he's with Cleveland now. Helping with that offense. He's going to help Baker Mayfield a lot. But anyway, I got to Kansas City. Lo and behold, I'm with Will Shields, who beat me for the Outland Trophy, another Hall of Famer. I got Brian Waters, who is just not getting his own, who goes to the Pro Bowl 6 times. I got Casey Wegman, who played like 10,000 some snaps in a row as our center. And we got John Tate. We moved to right because John was struggling at left. They brought me in to play left because Priest Holmes had already broke out the year before and had 16 rushing yards, but they couldn't throw the ball. And John was still learning how to play left tackle. Like I told you before, John got drafted in 99 or whatever. John was still trying to figure out how to play offensive line, especially left tackle. That's hard in the league. So I came in, we moved him to right, and, he got to watch me, and understand, how to come out there and play football week in, week out. So, I mean, the next 2 years, none of us missed a game. And John got paid that third year for 3 years. The other 4 of us didn't miss a game for 3 straight years. So we were a special group because all of us could get out and run in space. You couldn't overplay any of us, and we were so athletic. We were just tough to deal with on a week in, week out basis. And the coach, Solari, already told us, you guys set the tone for this team every week. So we knew we had to come out there and set the tone, and that's what we did. And we still get a lot of love in Kansas City because of what we did on that field.
Rightfully so. I mean, that offensive line was so talented. Priest Holmes, of course, like you said, had broken out the year before. He continued to roll. Trent Green starts to blossom. I mean, just everything on offense is clicking. And at the time, Dick Vermeil, I believe, is the head coach. So I just wanted to ask you real quick about, what was your experience like with him? Widely considered to be a great coach, but probably top 20 coach ever in the NFL, if not top 10.
He is. And I think Coach Vermeil should be getting his name called for the Hall of Fame. What he did. It's my line coach, Petey Piro, and was my line coach at La Tech when I got there. Played for Dick Vermeil for the Philadelphia Eagles. So my line coach played, then I played for him. We practice hard now. Vermeil, we went to work, and we were prepared to play. We had a real good system. We had a great coaching staff. And like I said, Coach Vermeil took the Rams to the Super Bowl, did a great job with us. We started 9-0 that year and got beat by Peyton in 2003. But he won it with the Rams. He took Philly to the Super Bowl. So I think it's a matter of time before Coach Vermeil should be on that ballot to being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Definitely.
And speaking of Pro Football Hall of Fame, I want to if you could just walk us through that day for you when you got that call, where you were, the emotions. I just want the full Willie Roaf Hall of Fame experience.
Well, at that time, now they bring everybody up early to doing their week at the hall, but I wasn't there, so I had to wait at home that day, that weekend before the Super Bowl, to know that I was going to get inducted before I got on the plane. So I was rushing to the airport to try to get to Indianapolis because we got to do the coin toss. But I wasn't there for any festivities. So it was like last minute I was on standby so I could fly up there. So I flew up there with my dad, and the rest of the guys were up there. We got to go do the coin toss. I got to go to the Super Bowl. It was, so I had a bunch of feelings that were great, but I was also trying to make it to Indianapolis from Orange County. I was flying out of Orange County, California. I lived in California at the time. So it was a lot of fun to get my name called. It was a lot of fun just to be able to get up there and be on that field before the game in the Super Bowl. I think Kelly Clarkson sang the national anthem before the game. So, man, it was a great football game too. The Giants pulled it out against the Patriots, but man, it was a lot of fun. That whole process with the Hall going in, it was great. They treated us great up there.
Oh, that's great. And I wanna look at just your playing ability, so to say. 6'5", 320, ran a 4.8 40, which is incredibly athletic. I know you attributed a lot of that to your basketball playing days and having good feet playing basketball. I want you to brag a little bit here. Why do you think Willie Roaf was so good in the NFL?
Well, I ran a 4.9 at the combine. So
4.9, okay, yep.
But I did run a 4.8 before in my personal workout on the basketball court. I just think I was good because we coming out of high school, going to a small college. If I had probably been a little taller, I probably kept playing basketball. I got a letter from UConn from Calhoun when he got there. When you go to when you come from a small school and you go to a program trying to prove itself, you have a chip on your shoulder.
Yep.
So we had to play against the big boys. We played good with the big boys, and we had a chip on our shoulder. And I think that chip went into the NFL. The Saints were still figuring things out. We still had something to prove. We went through some tough years. So, nothing was handed to me. I wasn't even in this day and age, I probably would have been a 2-star recruit, a 3. I don't even know what. I wasn't even all state coming out of high school.
Yep.
So, I always had a chip on my shoulder, and I was a very gifted athlete. So, I could dunk a basketball and run around, and I was blessed with a lot of athletic ability. And as I hit the weight room and got bigger and stronger, my athleticism picked up.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what it was. I knew in college that a lot of guys weren't as big and fast, and they couldn't run with me. And I knew that my athletic ability was different than linemen. I knew that the whole time.
Yep.
So it was just a matter of me staying eligible and doing what I needed to do. But after my freshman year in Tech, they told me, "Well, if you handle your business, you'll make a lot of money playing football." They already knew because I was around a lot of pro coaches, and
Yep.
in college we flipped from left to right, so it wasn't I wasn't a left tackle. You had to flip either side, so we flipped the whole game unless it was a 2 tight end set. So I played both ways throughout college. So you had to be pretty. Our line at Tech was pretty athletic. So those were a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun going through that process of maturing and seeing your body develop and like I said, I was going to leave early. I'm glad I stayed and finished that last year at La Tech. I wouldn't have been a first round pick. I think I still would have been a high pick, even if I come out early because I was big and fast. So somebody would have took a chance and probably drafted me second, third round. But I'm glad I stayed.
Now, do you think guys should stay more often? The 4 years and play college ball to develop more. Or you think you got to get your money as soon as you can?
I think that's a personal choice. Nowadays, it's so much money, and you guys have so much talent.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's your personal choice.
Sure.
Especially if you're some of these big programs that are playing on these, Alabama, Auburn, Clemson, Ohio. If you're playing against that competition, you have a chance to go real high, and those are the best athletes there are anyway at those programs. Then you need to stay at least 3 years.
Mm-hmm. So
maybe your red shirt. Some people are leaving at 2021 red shirt, sophomore, junior year. It matters, if you come into the true freshman and you play freshman, sophomore, junior, and they're talking about you're gonna be a high pick and you've played 3 straight years, then yeah, you're ready to go. I mean, if you're playing at that high level and you're a real good player, if they're telling you you got a chance to be a first, second round pick, then it might be time to go.
Yeah, and you look at guys like, just for an example, Patrick Mahomes. He's 22 years old, and the things he's doing now, that's a guy who's hit maturity early on and is having success early on too.
And he's handling it well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Well. Yeah. Now, what are your thoughts on today's game? Do you like the way it's going? Do you not like the way it's going? Are you is it kind of just the nature of the landscape with trying to make the best possible product for the fans? Like, what are your thoughts as a former player of today's game?
I like it. I mean, I like watching it. I like watching the college game, maybe sometime more than the pros, but I like it. I still think the best teams running past the ball.
Yep.
And you have to run the ball to set up the play action. So I still
Yep.
think the best teams in the NFL, you have to run the football. It doesn't matter. You know, I know they want to pass it and do all this stuff, but that's great. But I still think the best teams are able to establish the run and get after, and these teams get after guys, and then they're able to finish the game running the ball. They're still the best football teams. So it's still an excellent product. They got to do something about these not touching the quarterback. Some of the stuff going on now, but no, it's still a great product, and the games are exciting. They're scoring a lot of points. A little different style, but like I said, I mean, look at the Saints. What happened without Mark Ingram? I mean, they need to run the football.
Yeah.
And that offense was clicking last year with Kamara and Ingram, and I think it's going to be clicking again when they get Ingram back.
Yep.
Better.
Definitely. I meant to ask this earlier and it slipped my mind. I'd read somewhere that you had said that Mike Rucker was one of the toughest guys that you had gone against, and you attributed his power rush move as like the real reason why. So I just wanted to ask, what was it about the power moves that maybe were a little bit more difficult for you to handle, or what was it about the speed moves that you could handle? And is this all related to just your athleticism?
Good question. A guy like DT or Freeney that was just trying to outspeed me I like that more than the guy that I knew that was going to bore me or had long arms. Rucker, Chuck Smith, Kevin Green when I was on the right side. Those guys had power and leverage. And you knew at a certain point in the game, especially if you get down or you're not running the ball and keeping them off balance, I knew that Rucker was so strong he was going to bore me, son, and I couldn't stop him. We got Sean Jones real long, Tim Harris for the 49ers. I would reach out to put my hands on his chest, and these guys had their hands on my back of my pads. I mean, these guys had long arms. So mentally, that plays something with you when a guy, because I had long arms, was could get in your chest some. So you have to use great technique. But you're going to get out. Every time I played Mike Rucker or Chuck, you knew you were going to get a 4 days game, and, they were going to get you some. So, like I said, the power, guys that get bored and stuff like that, I knew there was going to be a couple plays where hopefully the quarterback got rid of it, but they were going to bore me and get me some. So that was part of it.
And, back along what we were just talking about with today's game, in the last few weeks, I've personally seen it come from Eric Dickerson, but, there's been a real big movement amongst the Hall of Fame guys about just raising awareness of the lack of, real retirement pension or health benefits. Why do you think that this hasn't been such a big deal in years past? And do you think that there's a real movement here that something can get done in the near future for all the retired guys out there?
I think they need to. It was better for me because I played. The deal got done in '93, so my rookie year was when we first had a labor deal. I was fortunate enough to play 13 years, so every CBA, the benefits get a lot better. So by the time I retired, I got some better health benefits. So my health insurance ran out after 5 years, but we had what's called the Gene Upshaw plan. So that was a few $100,000 that covers for me after it ran out, medical or health or anything for me or my children. I get reimbursed till that money runs out. So that was an excellent plan they put in for guys after the 5-year period that I came in. Now, I think it's going to be better for these guys playing now. The problem is those guys that played in the 50s and the 60s, 70s, a lot of them still living, they didn't have a big pension. They didn't take care of those guys. It's no way any former football player that played in those different areas that's still living, especially these older guys that did so much for the game, should be paying for anything health insurance wise. We can debate about the rest of it, but when the league's making $17 billion, these guys should be not paying for medical expenses at all. Mm-hmm. So we know everybody understands that part of it. Now
Mm-hmm.
about the money, what they're gonna do. You know, some of those guys pension are getting 300, 400, 500 a month. Well, if you're getting that, you can't even afford to pay for health insurance. You know, especially when you're older, they can't afford to pay for health insurance if you're getting a $800 or $1,000 pension. So that's so Dickinson, those guys bringing that to light. It needs to be brought to light. It needs to be addressed in the new CBA. The problem is the last CBA, these current guys are worried about what they're making and everything going on with them, and they're not retired, so they haven't had a guy sitting at the table addressing the needs of retired players. So I think it's great that Eric brought this up, and they will sit down at the table when they do a new CBA and talk about these different issues that need to be addressed for these older guys that are having problems. I mean, you watch the movie Concussion. There's no way Mike Webster should be living out of his car, going through what he went through before he passed. The NFL has enough money where they could buy a retirement center or whatever they want to buy, and guys that are dealing with issues with mental health, they could put these guys up and get them help take care of these guys. They haven't. I think they're making plenty enough money to figure out ways to help some of these guys, that are going through some of these times. Look at what's going on right now with the kid from the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, you never know. I mean, that's a tough situation for that kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, if nothing else, at least it's been brought to light. At least now it can get momentum because it's out there. And, hopefully we'll be seeing some real strides the next CBA. But just switching gears here as we're getting close to wrapping this up here, I wanted to ask you about Frame Your Game. It's something that I've seen on your Instagram page. Just tell us a little bit about what Frame Your Game has been like. And, I know that you're putting a lot of time into it now.
Man, it's great. It's a sports license plate that goes on your car. We have the NFLPA license, so you can put any player inside the frame. We're also selling at the Hall of Famers with all their bios on them, with their action shots in them. So for any of the fans listening, go to frameyourgame.com and scroll down, and you can look at Fanatics or we're on Bad Bath Beyond or NFL Shop. All the websites are on there. And we want them to go get their helmet, put their helmet on game day, or if not, get your favorite player inside your frame and put it on your wall in your house. So business is picking up. It's going well. And we should be being in some more venues next year. And we're in certain stadiums. We're in Denver, Kansas City, Seattle, the Meadowlands, Pittsburgh. So we do have helmets at those stadiums, but also that we're on Fanatics. So, Fanatics has been big for us to get that underneath our belt as well. And we also have a lot of colleges that we're selling also.
Very cool. Well, we'll definitely have to get a Willie Roaf one for our Victory Man Cave. I think that's the least we need in here. All right. So as promised, we have the Gauntlet, so we can wrap this up for you. So, Willie, just a couple quick questions, and I promise we'll get out of your hair.
Okay.
What's most important, having the number one offense or the number one defense?
Number one defense.
Now, you can only have one, the spread or the power. How are you running your offense?
In this NFL?
Sure. Spread. All right. Now, do you have just a favorite NFL moment looking back at your whole career?
Winning that first playoff game.
Yeah,
history.
2000.
Yep.
Very cool. It's third and short. You have to run the ball. Who's getting it? Ricky Williams or Priest Holmes?
Priest Holmes.
Yeah, those seasons in Kansas City, you can't debate it. Now, if you could go back and do it again, is there one coach or one player that you wish you had the chance to play with or play for, but it just never really worked out?
My favorite team was Steelers, so I would have loved to play for Chuck Noll on those teams in the 70s.
That would have been something. Yeah, Mike Webster with you.
with that line with Terry Bradshaw from La Tech.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that would have been something. And last but not least, what do you think is most important, the players or the scheme?
Players.
That's the theme.
It's the common theme. Yeah.
All right. Well, everyone, you can find Willie Roaf on social media, Twitter and Instagram, Willie_Roaf. Frame your game, whether it's at Fanatics, wherever you can find it. That is where you want to be looking to get anything on your man cave for your license plate. If you're a true fan, that's what you want. Willie, thank you so much for spending the time with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Willie.
Thanks for having me, man.
So, Willie, well, we're all set here. We're going to stop right